Hey, do you want to know everything that can go wrong with the BMW X5? We're going to tell you. Do you want to know what these things are like to live with and drive now that they're used? We're going to tell you that as well. Do you want to know what they cost to own and operate? Yeah, we're going to tell you that as well. Most importantly, but we're going to tell you if you should or shouldn't buy one. Let's bloody do this. In this video, we're going to be focusing on the third generation X5, which is the F15, and it existed from about 2013 to 2018. Which here in Australia has been available across primarily 9 different models, packing a choice of 4 turbo diesel engines, 2 petrol and a single petrol hybrid, most of which will send power to all 4 wheels via an 8-speed auto. However, a rear-wheel drive variant has been available in the S-Drive 25D. And before all of you X5 anoraks start yelling at me in the comments going, oh, what about the full fat X5M? You've forgotten that. No, we haven't. We've actually made a full review video of the X5M of this generation. The link is just up there. But in this video, look, we're just going to be focusing on the G-rated X5s. But what if even all of this isn't enough choice for you? Well, that's easy. BMW released a host of special or limited editions, and like any good BMW, there has been an almost endless array of optional extras available. We'll expand on this a little bit later, but there's a high chance that you're not going to find 2 X5s on the used market of this generation that are exactly the same. And also, thanks to the insane depreciation that these things can suffer from, here in Australia, the very cheapest models are asking around about $17,000, $18,000. The most expensive non-M models, kind of mid to high 80s, even low 90s. But if you want to see how affordable these are to finance, jump on ReDriven.com, go to the X5 cheat sheet and check out the driver-powered car loan calculator. That way Driver can find you the absolute best finance package that best suits you. There are no hidden fees and you can get pre-approval in just minutes. Plus, doing all that via the link down there, it's going to get you a free $150 fuel voucher. But look, while we're giving you discounts and free stuff, how about 15% off and free express shipping on some awesome WIPERTECH wiper blades? Simply hit the WIPERTECH link down there. They're super easy to order online. They're going to be express delivered to your door for free. They're super easy to fit and they're going to wipe like your grandmother wipes food off your face. Okay, now you might disagree with me on this, but I personally think the X5 is such a handsome looking car. Frank Stephenson designed the original X5 and I feel like every kind of ongoing evolution of it just kind of refined yet extended on that initial design because fundamentally it is so good. However, the X6 obviously destroyed all that. It kind of looks like some deformed pregnant turtle with way too much plastic surgery, but the X5, yeah, excellent. Now, according to many on the interwebs, apparently this interior is looking very tired and dated and just showing its age. Really? Like, I think it looks great. I really like the interior in here. In fact, I'll go as far as saying I think this interior is almost like a timeless design, and the reason being, it was created around a time that I think is like the perfect point in evolution between technology for cars. After this, manufacturers have gone just to stacks of touch screens. There's a lack of buttons. Before this, there were way too many buttons. But in this, it's the right amount of buttons. If you want to go delving deep into, multiple different functions and menus, you can do that via the iDrive system. But for all the normal day-to-day functionality, excellent. Buttons. Now, materials wise, being a BMW, you would expect them to all feel very premium, and look, most of them do, but there are a few wear and tear things going on. Firstly, the leather on the seats, it is soft-ish, but it is starting to feel a little bit hard. That will happen with age. So with the textures on the armrests, they're getting a little bit smooth. Steering wheel has become almost completely smooth. And then you've got this use of like high gloss materials everywhere. The wood grain trim and kind of this black plastic stuff, it looks fantastic when new, but as you can see here, like this car gets a hell of a workout. This is this owner's everyday driver, sorry. And yeah, like the black plastic is looking pretty nasty. Also, I don't know about this aftermarket carbon fiber trim. That's obviously not a BMW thing. This is like stuck on afterwards and not sure. But yeah, wear and tear. Yeah, it's okay. Oh, I should also mention, if you want to see what like a fully spec'd X5M with all the M goodies looks like as far as the interior goes, go watch the full review video. Now, just an ergonomics thing, this is weird for me in a BMW. I normally like fit in BMWs perfectly, but I can't seem to get comfortable in this seat. It's got heaps of adjustability, as does the steering wheel, but no matter what I'm trying, I don't know, I just can't get perfectly comfortable. Really odd. X5M, I felt great. Every other BMW, loved. This one, yeah, I don't know. Now, as far as practicality goes, you've got stacks. Huge door bins, little pocket just here, storage cubby hole down there, which is also felt lined. You've got a spot for 2 cup holders here. There's even more storage under here. There's a power outlet just there. Bisexual center console as it opens both ways. Removable tray, even more storage under there. That's decent size storage as well. Really good size glove box. That's it, nowhere for, oh yeah, spot for your sunglasses up here, nothing under the seats. Really good. Honestly, the door bins are massive. The only problem, if you have a smaller water bottle, it does tend to rattle around a bit. Okay, now in the back seat, I'm exactly 25 centimeters taller than acclaimed Hollywood director Martin Scorsese. This is in my driving position, and actually, why Martin Scorsese? Well, we're talking about the X5, and Martin Scorsese has 5 ex-wives. I know it's a stretch, but it makes sense. Anyway, this is in my driving position. Excellent. If these bag things for the kids weren't on the backs of the seats, heaps of knee room, heaps of foot room. The seats are really comfortable. Dare say, even comfier than the driver's seat. And even though it's like black leather in here, it actually doesn't feel claustrophobic at all. Really, really good place to be. Wear and tear wise, like obviously this does get a workout. There are kids back here all the time, but the leather still feels quite good. Getting a little bit on the firm side. Door cards, there's a few bit scratches here and there. That's to be expected, but honestly quite good. Yeah, it's good for wear and tear. And then practicality in the back seat, really good sized door bins. You've got, mat pockets on the backs of the seats here. You've got your own air conditioning vents and air conditioning controls. 2 power outlets for the kids' iPads. If they're trying to hide a secret mobile phone, there's an amazing depth of storage under there. And they'll pull down armrests with trapdoor style cup holders. Excellent. Okay, now practicality in the boot is pretty good. It's not the best in class, it's not the worst in class. I do love the split tailgate with this flip down section. It makes getting things in and out really, really easy. Also, the seats fold nearly flat, so it becomes, like almost a little van. Also, a lot of these are on run flat tyres, which means you get even more storage under the boot. In this one, not run flat, so no extra storage. Also, there are 7-seat variants of these, although in saying that, the third row are really only for like gnomes or hobbits. You're never going to get an adult back there. Okay, now it's not so much bad news when it comes to tech and features, because even the early base models of these, they did receive a whole bunch of kit. But the problem is the really fancy schmancy stuff, it was either an optional extra or only fitted to the higher spec variants. So therefore, you're going to want to hope that whoever the previous owner was really enjoyed ticking boxes or was like financially plentiful and loved options, because as we said before, very rarely are 2 X5s on the used market going to be exactly the same. Now look, obviously you're still going to get all the expected stuff like Bluetooth connectivity, a really good sound system, dual zone climate control, loads of infotainment to play with via the iDrive system, leather everywhere, parking sensors, a reverse camera, power everything. The list just goes on and on. But go hunting and spend a little bit more money, and there's every chance you're going to find an example with an Alcantara headliner, a heads-up display, premium Bang & Olufsen sound system that sounds incredible. There are different seats, there's premium leathers. Again, the list of possibilities is like endless. But I might have some bad news here. The majority of these F15 X5s, they're not going to have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Some of the later models, they can have Apple CarPlay if it was optioned. The drama is fitting Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, depending on who you speak to, can be a massive pain in the ass. So bad, in fact, that some installers told us that you shouldn't even bother because it can end up being so incredibly buggy. As I said, the reports online will vary. Some people will say you can do it, others can't. Android Auto users, yeah, pretty much no, I'm sorry. Yeah, there are some pretty horrible reports about trying to fit Android Auto to these. There are aftermarket systems available, but you've got to spend top dollar on them because the cheap ones, they just don't work with iDrive. Oh, actually on that, it can depend on which generation of iDrive you're looking at, if it's iDrive 6 or 7. But yeah, honestly, can be a massive pain in the ass. Also, just on the whole iDrive system, guys, I personally think that iDrive, like this is an earlier incarnation of iDrive, I think it's still the best of all of the manufacturer's infotainment systems. It's easy to use, it has everything you want, it's great. Now, as far as the safety goes, look, it's a big premium SUV. It should be loaded with safety kit, and it is. But to take you through exactly what you can expect, we're going to cut to another voiceover, but this time it seems appropriate that I suppose we celebrate like the sophisticated and cool image of these while also celebrating this car's or this brand's country of origin.
Der X5 wird sie dank 6 Airbags, ABS, Traktions- und elektronischer Stabilitätskontrolle sowie Kurvenbremskontrolle hoffentlich vor schweren und brutalen Verletzungen bewahren. Spätere und höher ausgestattete Modelle können jedoch über eine Unfallvermeidungstechnologie, Spurwechselwarnungen und Vorwärtskollisionswarnungen verfügen.
Okay, so this is where these things get under your skin. It's how they drive, because they are enjoyable to steer. Now look, this is one of the lowest spec models, so it is riding on the passive suspension. And you'd think it'd be really firm because it's got so much weight to kind of stop from toppling over and pitching and rolling all over the place. But it's actually quite nice. Like it does sit relatively flat through corners. It's not a performance car by any means, but it is still comfortable. It is a little bit on the firm side, but yeah, ride and comfort, even over potholes, yeah, good. Now look, I thought the engine might be a bit of a letdown because it is the 2-litre turbo diesel and it's a big car, but it's not too bad. Look, it's not a standout performer by any means, but like overtaking, pulling into traffic, even at freeway speeds, is not too terrifying. It does sound a little rattly, kind of truck-like. Not the most refined unit, but again, does the job. But the advantage with the 2-litre turbo diesel is its fuel efficiency. The owner of this particular car reports that he's getting nearly 1,000 Ks per tank. Now, as far as rattles and squeaks go in the interior, there's a lot of owners that complain about excessive rattles and squeaks, and they can feel a bit cheap inside. This isn't too bad. There are occasional little noises here and there, but we're looking at 131,000 Ks. The roads around here aren't too great. Rattles and squeaks, for what, it's a BMW, it should be better than this, but it's not too bad. Now, the steering on this one is a little funny. They do have some reports of some like weird grinding feelings and sounds coming through the steering, and occasionally it does do it. It's just that it takes that little bit of confidence out of the steering, especially if you are just, making maneuvers at freeway speed or, really anything kind of over 60 kilometers an hour. But the drive modes, they genuinely do make a difference. Like the whole car responds when you hit it into sport mode. The problem with sport mode is that it will have a pretty negative impact on your fuel consumption. There's another negative too, and look, I know this isn't one that's going to affect too many owners because hardly anyone does this, but these are not very capable off-road. Look, I know, again, SUV buyers in this market, they don't really care about going off-road, but it would be nice to know that you can go off-road if you need to, and the problem is, for what these cost and in this market, there are so many other SUVs that can give you the option of maybe exploring a bit of wilderness, but in this one, it'll go like in a unsealed car park, but I wouldn't be taking it into the bush anytime soon. Look, if you're looking at buying an X5, you're probably doing so because you want the whole premium SUV thing in your life. That makes sense. But when it comes to driving, I don't know if this offers as much of a premium feel as you might expect. It's certainly not bad by any means, but it just doesn't feel, the driving experience, it doesn't feel as special as I'd hoped. X5M that we reviewed, my God, that's amazing. Go watch that video. This one, it's nice. Okay, now to the part of the video that is everybody's favourite, unless you're a fan of the car that we're featuring. What goes wrong? Let's start with the exterior. Okay, on some examples, the tailgates can apparently rattle like crazy. It's very annoying. Apparently it just needs to be realigned. And also, speaking of realignment, the doors as well, they can sometimes need realignment as well. You can generally tell this if there's wind or road noise, excessive wind or road noise coming into the cabin. Also, owners have complained that the keyless entry can play up, and also some of the soft closed doors don't soft close. Sometimes the cameras all over the car and even the wiring harness, it can play up, and sometimes it needs a complete replacement. Now this next problem, it's not specific to the X5, but they're renowned for doing it. If the X5 you're looking at has a sunroof, make sure those drainage holes have been cleared out regularly. Water can build up, it gets inside basically all the body panels, it can start frying electronics. It's an absolute nightmare. If it's got a sunroof, clean out the bloody drainage channels. Speaking of drainage, just make sure there's not an excessive amount of leaves or wilderness under here, because the drainage channels under the base of the windscreen, they can get clogged up, and that's a nightmare. And even around the hinges and stuff here, just make sure this car, is clean and tidy. Okay, problems inside. Firstly, it's quite common for the leather along this side bolster to start cracking and then eventually splitting. Now, some of these were replaced under warranty, but we're now reading reports that even the warranty repaired strip of leather, even it's starting to crack and break. Apparently the door grip on the passenger side, it can get like a bit sticky. Gross. Now, quite a few owners have complained that the interior lighting is a bit dull and dim. It can be fixed by either like recoating the system or just putting some LED bulbs in. Okay, now the steering column. First of all, there are complaints that the motor that controls the adjustments, it can freak out, sometimes only in one direction. And also, a lot of owners have complained that the steering can get a bit of a grinding or creaking feeling to it. The problem is, sometimes it requires an entire new steering column to fix it. Also, there are plenty of reports of like rattles and weird noises coming from the steering column and below the instrument cluster. Good news is it can be fixed with some of that felt tape stuff, but it could take you hours, if not days, to find exactly where the rattle's coming from. Now, according to some owners groups, the iDrive system itself, some of the early ones, it can just reboot randomly and you can lose a lot of your presets, which is annoying. Generally, it's an easy fix with a software update. And then there are just like a bunch of sporadic reports of weird electronic gremlins, like certain buttons not working, even down to things like the doors just unlocking themselves randomly. Not common as such, but yeah, sporadic. And just look, if you're going to buy one, just press every button, make sure everything works. And then look, this isn't the X5's problem, it's more of a BMW issue. Quite a few owners have complained that their local BMW dealerships or the service departments have been, let's say, arrogant and dismissive when they're reporting some of these problems. Not all owners. Some owners love their BMW dealerships, but others, yeah, they don't like BMW dealerships at all. And then we come to mechanically what can go wrong with the X5. I can't tell you because I'm not a qualified mechanic, but Jim is.
Owners of these that have had them from new or even up to 2 or 3 years old with less than 100,000 Ks on them will give you glowing reports about how great they are and how they've never had a problem. But owners of higher mileage versions, and specifically 4-cylinder petrol models, well, they might want to talk about the class action lawsuit regarding the dodgy timing chains and catastrophic engine failures. From 2015, they were improved, but the early ones are very much a ticking time bomb. Some less serious issues, they do suffer from oil leaks from valve covers and the oil filter housing. And they are known too for consuming oil, so it's likely going to have to top it up between services. You don't want to be that guy who has a catastrophic engine failure because of low oil levels. Like a lot of modern day cars, they are direct injection, so you are going to have problems with blocked up inlets, so that's going to need cleaning every 5 years or so. The later models, the ones with the hybrid systems, they are actually much more reliable, and the hybrid system itself is too pretty reliable, although they do struggle to actually reach the claimed 30 odd kilometres of range. But other than that, they're fairly reliable. But later on, I'd say that the complexity and the likelihood of being expensive to repair, well, I'd probably give that one a miss. The 6-cylinder petrol, it's a bit of a BMW workhorse, and it's in a lot of different BMW models. It too has a whole bunch of similar problems, oil leaks from the valve covers, oil leaks from oil filter housings. It has some cam timing or Vanos control issues that can be expensive to fix. Again, direct injection, so you are going to have to clean out your ports occasionally. Now, they also have a fairly problematic breather system, so that actually exacerbates the clogging of the inlets and actually makes the oil system work. So the PCV and the breather system are probably going to need some care at some point. Occasionally we see some issues with ignition coil failures and the odd actual fuel injector failure itself too. Typically that'll just cause a misfire and usually not too complicated to repair. The other petrol option is the V8 petrol. Now here the engineers have done a great job with packaging, and it is capable of making immense horsepower and torque, and who doesn't love a turbo V8, right? Well, this V8, this is the hot V with a turbo in the middle, well, it's a hot mess. In the pursuit of excellence, the engineers here have just created something unnecessarily complicated. There is literally so much that goes wrong with these things. And it's actually a common theme to all the other BMW engines here. They have chronic timing chain issues, they have oil leak problems, they have oil consumption issues, but it's all just made much worse by the complexity and the heat generated by this hot V. They do use a lot of oil, so you are going to need to top that up. More PCV complications, they also have heat exchanger and coolant pump complications. And the list goes on and on. The diesel options in these, they basically share the same engine architecture. It's just 2 more cylinders tacked on the front. They are a little bit more reliable than the petrols, but they do have their problems. One of the problems we see in the diesel is related to the timing chain. It seems to be a common thread with BMWs. Now the timing chain on these is actually at the back of the engine, and it was never designed to be a serviceable item. To access it, you've either got to take the engine out or the gearbox out. It's a nightmare. They do stretch and sometimes they do break, and it does cause a catastrophic engine failure. If you hear it rattling, you can catch it and repair it before it breaks, but it is eye-wateringly expensive. And like nearly all modern common rail diesels, they suffer from DPF issues, EGR complications. They also suffer from high pressure fuel pump issues too, and that is a very expensive one to fix. Now, all of these engine options, both the petrol and the diesel, they have very complex cooling systems, and the majority of parts in those cooling systems are all made of plastic. Now, that's fine when they're new and they're cheap to make, and that's great, but after about 5 or 6 years and maybe, I don't know, 1,000 heat cycles, they do become very brittle and are prone to failure. So you're gonna have to keep an eye on that and be prepared to spend money on that. The gearboxes, they are a ZF 8-speed. They are actually a pretty good gearbox, and they're used in a bunch of cars by a bunch of different manufacturers. They are reliable, and if serviced properly every 80,000 Ks or so, you are very unlikely to have any big issues with it. Steering and suspension, all the bushes in these things are very soft and prone to wear prematurely. The lower control arms, they seem to be a serviceable item now. You just do the whole arm rather than changing bushes and ball joints. They're also very heavy on brakes. Now, the brakes on these aren't any more expensive than any other car really, so don't expect to pay more than other cars, but they do tend to wear them a little bit prematurely. Now, models fitted with the active dampening or adaptive shocks, whatever you want to call it, they are complex, and they, just like all shock absorbers, wear out after time. So be prepared if you're going to get that model with that suspension. They are expensive to replace. And all models fitted with air suspension are going to be problematic. Just like every car with air suspension, you will see leaks at the airbags, you'll see leaks in the airlines, and the compressors inevitably fail too. Again, complicated and expensive, probably best to avoid that one. Now, I know it all seems like a lot of doom and gloom, and obviously not all X5s have all of those problems, but all of those problems happen in X5s, so it's something you have to consider. Fastidiously servicing can mitigate some of those risks, but we see problems happen to all of those X5s, even the ones that have been serviced perfectly. And ignore any extended service interval. You must service it every 10,000 kilometres. And if you're buying a second-hand one, just be aware that some dealerships may offer some sort of extended warranty. Typically, not worth the paper it's written on.
Now look, obviously not every X5 are going to suffer from all of those problems. In fact, there are thousands and thousands of owners that have never and probably will never have an issue with these. They can be perfect. Although in saying that, if you go reading through any of the publicly available reliability reports or customer satisfaction surveys, these things don't fare all of that well. Anyway guys, look, I actually have to say a massive thank you to you. ReDriven has amazingly become one of the fastest growing automotive YouTube channels in Australia, and it's all thanks to you subscribing and supporting us. Guys, we promise you, the bigger ReDriven gets with your support, the bigger and better and more of these videos and content we can make for you. Honestly guys, thank you so, so much. Now, after all of that, should you buy an X5? Well, look, this is one of those cars that, despite the potential reliability concerns, expensive repair bills, and continual painful depreciation, is still loved by so many. Like, it's funny, you know, we spoke to a whole bunch of owners in the X5 owners groups, and they rattled off like a laundry list of issues they've all had with their own X5. But it was quickly followed by, oh, but I absolutely love it, and I'm happy to spend whatever it takes to keep it going. And look, if that sounds like a completely insane way to approach buying a car, yeah, don't buy one of these. But if for whatever reason that makes sense to you, yeah, okay, sure, buy one, but just know what you're getting yourself into. But here's the thing, if you are legitimately tempted into buying one of these, there's every chance you're actually looking at the wrong car. In fact, the wrong BMW. See, for whatever reason, if you need the added ride height of an SUV, yeah, cool. Or if you're driving on extremely slippery roads all the time, so you need all-wheel drive, that's cool too. Or if you're lacking in self-confidence and this current trend of buying a big SUV to make yourself feel better really resonates with you, well, that's great as well. But for everybody else, the BMW that you should be looking at is one of these. See, a 5 Series Touring offers pretty much the same practicality, the same levels of tech and safety, more affordable running costs thanks to less weight, a superior driving experience, and possibly most importantly, wagons are just so much cooler than an SUV. So a question for you, do you still buy an X5 or do you buy a 5 Series Touring or something completely different? Let us know in the comments. See you guys next time. You're looking at anywhere from, there's little, Okay, now the all-important TBTL score. TBTL is the turn back to look factor, or my God, my brain. Oh, I should also mention, if you want to see what like a fully spec'd X5M looks like with all the M goodies and the premium material. So a question for you, do you still buy an X5 or you... Yeah.